House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
Half a day, everybody. Welcome back to House to Home, and the show we have where I am the only person in the Zoom room right now where I am not a professional licensed realtor. Liz Duenas and Gina Campos both are. They are Remax Diamond Realty Guam. They are a service company whose life mission, as has been going on between them, 60 years of realty experience, has been to serve you. So, ladies, I wanted to talk about something. What is the essence of being a realtor? And sometimes in professions, I know I get this in my role as a broadcaster, sometimes the motive for going into a certain line of work and then what you actually do for a living and then the public perception of what that role is can often be, there's a little bit of a like grayness there and everything like that.
A disconnect.
But disconnect. I was also going to say misconception, but by the way, also misconception was the name of my third grade teacher. So, you know, whatever.
Misconception.
Yeah, misconception. She's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about that. What is the perception from in your opinion, of how the community like sees you? Are you guys just like used car salespeople, or are you guys just in it for commissions, or are you guys like advisors? Some people see you as lawyers, some people as, you know, whatever. But break it down for me.
Check all of the above.
There you go. Psychologist, perhaps. Grief counselor.
Every day.
Loan officer. We've talked about that too.
No, I quit that job.
Okay, so what do you typically get when people ask you what you do, and probably more to the point, what do you not do?
You know, I want to touch, you said you wanted to introduce, and you said something about a Remax Diamond Realty, a service company. That is the misconception, that we're not a service company, that realtors are not in the service industry. That is the beauty of what we do, is we don't sell products, we sell service. We offer our service. So that was the first, for me, eye-opener. I'm almost at 40 years doing this. And along the way, I came to the conclusion that I don't have a boss. I have many, 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 many bosses. Every customer that calls me is a boss. And so for the people, you know, for the realtors out there, or people thinking about getting into real estate who believe you're going to be your own boss, that is a misconception. Throw that out the window. Ain't gonna fly if you want to be successful at being a realtor. You need to understand service first.
Okay, Liz, how about you? Because you've been doing this a lot. You talk to a lot of people, and probably because of the success that we've had with this segment right here, you get noticed a lot out in the community. I know a lot of people think you're taller than you actually are.
That's correct.
But as far as the scope of your responsibility, what do people maybe think?
I've been in the business close to 30 years myself, and the type of work we do, as Gina puts it, yes, if you were one of our clients, you are the boss. We are trained, we learn. Good realtors have to keep educating themselves because times change, rules change, policies change. So we have to continue to take educational courses to stay on top of our game, as well as stay on top of technology. But we are advisors to our clients. If you're selling a piece of property, we don't dictate what that price would be. And we would do our research based on what the market is doing. And then we can advise you as a client, this is what the market looks like. But in the end, bottom line, the decision comes from you. If you agree with what we've come up with, you are the boss. And if we say it's priced at 500,000, but you say, I want 600,000, what do we do? I can only give you the update on information in the market, but the bottom line is we have to listen to you, the client, and we can provide information, give you some guidance. And yes, with all the years between Gina and myself, we're always putting our heads together because sometimes one has a better answer than what I have to solve a particular problem. But yes, there is that misconception that realtors, it's all about the money, and that's all we do is work to get the money, and that's not true. because there are
The
times
industry
I
is a
spend
very
hours.
lucrative one. There is very real potential for you to do quite well financially if you grind and if you really do your job the right way and have a big client list. And I was going to ask you ladies this exactly because I remember on Guam in the early and mid 2000s, there were a lot of people like my age, right? I'm 50 now. So when a lot of my peers were like in their late 20s, early 30s, a lot of people were trying to study up and get their real estate license because they just thought it was this industry where you only work literally 3 hours a week and you'll make like 100K like a year. A lot of people made that assumption, and then 2008 happened and the housing market fell apart, and that really left a lot of those of you who really like weathered the storm.
One thing I have to say, talk about weathering the storm. The market goes up, it goes down.
Mhm.
If you are a full-time realtor, you don't worry about, because you're always there to provide a service in good times and in bad. And there's always someone looking to buy, there's always someone looking to sell. However, if you are just doing the work part-time, then that's hard to serve your clients or your customers. If you are a full-time agent, there's more impact in the work that you do. But again, they used to say, oh, the market is bad. Well, it's never bad for Gina and myself because it's a passion. We're always doing the work. And it doesn't matter, weekends, days, weekdays, weekends, we're 24/7. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and
We
like I
can
said, all of those peers of mine that just got into it because they thought it was going to be like a nice little side hustle, minimal effort, maximal game. None of them are there anymore because they just had a wrong perception what we're talking about here today. So, Gina, I'd like to ask you, in all the decades that you've been working on this, going on 4 now, as you said, what has been maybe the golden era or the high point of the market like on Guam? Was it in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, or we talked about like the '08 financial crisis time and everything, but what has been a period of like peak productivity?
Jason, I never look at it that way. It's pretty consistent. Real estate is consistent. It's like the food industry. Everyone always needs a place to stay at all times. That's a given. So it never, there are occasions, there are periods in our timetable where it's easier to accomplish that in time, and periods where it's harder. Like recently, I believe it's gotten really hard to get into decent housing because of the cost of our rentals are really high right now. The cost to build is high. The cost to maintain properties is high. So that translates into cost of renting is high, because when it's costing your landlords a lot of money to keep the building in good condition, you're going to have to somehow, everything trickles down. Unless you're renting from your family member who's willing to discount the rent, people have to make a certain amount of money in order for them to be willing to be landlords, because it's not an easy job. And anybody who owns real estate, any owner that has real estate, you're holding onto that property either to pass it down, but in the meantime, if you can't afford to keep it because you can't pay for the expenses, it's going to rot away because you're not maintaining it. So people end up converting it to a rental in the hopes of maybe someday giving it to their children. So, in that regard, for me, I believe that Liz said it earlier, the market is always constant. Yes, there are better years. It's easier to get paid for the service you're giving in some years, and you do a lot of it because it's easier to do it. It's a good real estate year, but recently it hasn't been like that. And
Then again, we're coming off a 3-year pandemic or a global
exactly.
plague effectively, and then only a year later, like a calendar year later, we had a major typhoon, which around here, it's going to take like 2 or 3 years to recover from, and that's just the nature of where we live.
Yeah, and we work for the owners, and so when owners come to us to talk to us about real estate, I mean, there have been occasions where Liz and I have sat down and looked at their numbers and said, listen, maybe it's a good idea if you hold on. I've actually had conversations with sellers where I've said, hold on. You actually don't really need to sell. If you sell, what's going to happen? But at the end of the day, like Liz said, they are our bosses, and we have to understand that not everybody can afford to hold on to their property. Some people have medical issues. Some people just want to sell and make money. Yes, yes, make money. That is not an ugly word. Making money was supposedly everybody's goal at one point. Now, when I talk to certain people, they make it like wanting to make money and be rich is an ugly thing. It is not. I've never desired to be poor. Been there, done that, and it's not pretty.
No.
And so, being rich is much better. And so, when we meet people and that's their goal, we can't hold on to our real estate. We don't want to pass it down to the kids. We want to sell it and go live it up or go take care of our medical issues or take care of this family or that. That is not a bad thing. And we commend them for it. And our job is to do the best we can to help them meet and accomplish that goal. And we're going
Hey, if
to
I could have
continue
studied
to do
computer
that.
science at MIT, I would have done that. But you know what? I couldn't afford it. That's a really, really tough school, and it's really, really expensive.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I'm sure if you had the real estate assets and you could have said, listen, I'm going to sell my real estate assets to accomplish this goal, you might have done that. But you know what? It's not my business to ask what the goal is or what they're trying to do. My goal is to accomplish what the seller wants to do.
Mhm. Well, Liz, what is the general attitude? Because of course you've been in leadership with the Guam Association of Realtors too, in addition to running your own brokerage as you guys do now. But what is the general consensus of the members of the association on what their role is within the industry and then the larger the macroeconomy of Guam?
I think as realtors, we all have the same, of course, personalities are different, ways of conducting business is different, but in general, realtors act on a code of conduct and ethics, and we're governed by that. And when a realtor violates those ethics, then a grievance is presented, and the board will have to deal with that. But I would love to say in general, everyone would operate with the highest of integrity and ethics. But again, there may be cases where that does not happen. But in general, between Gina and myself, we want to do what's right. And I want to talk about property rights. If you owned a piece of property, it's your right to either rent it, sell it, and make money on it. And if I were to infringe on that right, sometimes there's talk about the government infringing on your property rights. I really think that is unfair. Both Gina and I think no one should infringe on your property rights. As realtors, our job is to help you get maximum rental value on your property. And she said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's your right to do whatever you choose to.
You live
And
a better life. Who's going to complain about that?
Exactly. And our role is to tell you, here's the comps. Gina and I do not pull figures from the air. We always look at, okay, what were the similar type properties that sold or rented? And those are the facts we present to you. So if I tell you, well, you can get $2,400 a month on your rental, but you say, well, I want $2,800. Again, you're dictating you want $2,800. So we can put it on the market, and you know what? There are cases where the price may have been inflated, but there's a market for it. Someone rents it. They're happy with it. What's wrong with that?
Let me ask you, I don't want to say the integrity, but the role, and that's why we're talking about it today. The role of realtors on Guam hasn't necessarily been questioned, but I mean it's been brought up in the legislature recently because of this the decedent parental subdivision property issue, which continues to be like a thing right now. What is the pulse of the realtor community right now in how they're it's being assumed that like they're being framed, either whether it's it's crass capitalism or whether it's there's nefarious intent and everything? Are the realtors kind of like corralling together and saying like this is what we chose to do, or is it kind of like offense at being labeled in a certain way?
It's of course offensive, but like the community at large, Jason, there's only a very small handful of people showing up at the legislature, not because they're not being impacted or affected by this bill, or the inability of the legislature to pass the bill. But because they're afraid, they don't want to be there, because they don't want to be seen there protesting, because that's seems to be how it's perceived, that we're actually down there protesting. We've been down there encouraging doing the right thing. And the realtors are the same. They're a reflection of the public. There aren't enough of us showing up down there. More than I expected have come down there in support of this bill. But generally speaking, there are a lot of us out there who are offended at some of the comments, that we're just there because we're, follow the money. We're there to get rich. I want to say, I will do much better for my pocketbook if I stay in my office and do my work. I have a lot of work to do. And I actually spent a lot of time, Liz and John spent a lot of time last week going to the legislature, trying to be available and trying to encourage that they pass the bill. Because for us, that bill was only to adopt a new septic tank system for the island that will modernize the septic tank. That's what it was about for us. For the families who showed up, it was about balancing the injustice of not being able to build on their land, but that person across the street who has identical sized property is building on theirs. Why is that? And it's hard to understand the concept. For me, it's a black and white question. Why is it that person can build on their land right next to me, but I can't? Somebody explain that to me. And I'm building a house just like they are. So that's why we've invested so much of our time, is because we believe in fairness. We believe in justice. We believe that when you see something wrong, whether it's profitable or not, you should step up and give it your time, your attention to try to balance, to try to fix the wrong. So that's why we've been going down there. But you're not going to see a whole lot of people from the Realtors Association showing up for the very same reason that I just pointed out. We make more money doing our work. No one's paying us to go down there. And we understand what we're really fighting for is for probate landowners. A majority of them don't sell. Probate landowners to be able to build on their property. So that truly won't benefit us in the long run. It's to benefit them, to balance the injustice.
So kind of like the way that now I know we're all mathematically inclined here, but the way that you're actually saying this literally is that you actually lose money by taking time out of your normal productivity schedule to go down there. Kind of like the same way there's that one joke. It's like, how much Bill Gates is walking down the street and he sees $100 bill on the street. If he stops what he's doing, stops working, bends down and like picks it up and everything, he's probably lost like 20 grand because he wasn't working. It's a weird example, but it's kind of apropos.
But it's really sad that the realtors were demonized by the senators. Joanne Brown made the same comment. Tello Teitigwe made the same comment, and Barnett. And they're the five, of course, in opposition. But what the people don't know is there are facts and figures that came out that weren't introduced. And we've been working on this bill for like close to 3 years with Senator Sabina Perez. And she was working on it to move it forward, but she never did. And so as a result, we had to take the cause to Senator Duenas, who finally put it forward. And the weird part is Senator Sabina Perez kept introducing 17 amendments to the bill. Where was she when she was working on that bill for the past 2-3 years? Why now? She could have moved this thing forward herself, but chose not to. So there's an injustice there that wasn't corrected. And for some reason, and their agenda was to keep it hidden and it was disingenuous. They weren't clear. If she really had an issue with some of the verbiage in the bill, she should have corrected it if she thought that was important. And then we could have worked on it. But the bill as it was introduced, a lot of those changes were done by Guam EPA and a collaborative effort from the group. So to make it sound like this was being pushed forward quickly without really thought or effort on it is incorrect. It's been a 2 to 3 year process, and it got sandbagged by Senator Sabina Paris. I hate to say that, but that's what happened. And now they pushed it forward.
Well, we need to start speaking in plain language. Some of the statements made are just bold, they're lies, because we've been waiting for 3 years to balance the injustice. And what I've always been asking is, if not this system, if you don't want to introduce this nitrate system, you've had 3 years, because I mean, the families don't care what system they use. Of course, they want something reasonable, something affordable. But but I really believe genuinely that these senators are smart enough to solve 2 issues. Number 1, private property rights are utmost for me. Number 2, protecting our groundwater is absolute. And I believe these senators, all 15 of them, are smart enough to solve those 2 items. Not by taking any more rights away from people, not by limiting their rights. But Senator Perez, this is for you. What system do you want to introduce that is superior to the type 4 nitrate system? Why haven't you brought it to the table? We are waiting, because I believe that you 15 senators can solve these issues if you put your heads together, not fighting, not grandstanding, because some of what I watched last week was shameful.
It is.
Absolute shameful.
Well, there you go. I mean, let's go end it there, because we set out to make this episode about what are some of the perceptions, and now I think we're talking about some of the things that actually happened. Hopefully we will have some sort of resolution to this issue, because I mean, it goes on far longer now than the 3 or 4 weeks that we've been talking about it here, like here on this segment. Like you said, several years, and ultimately there are some people who are really, really waiting very painfully to get this done. So ladies, thanks as always.
Thank you, Jason.
House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.